In the small town of Ravenswood, where fog hung thickly over the streets and the moon seldom pierced the perpetual gloom, there stood an old, abandoned mansion known as Blackwood Manor. The locals whispered tales of airy lights flickering in the windows and ghostly figures glimpsed in the dead of night. But it was the story of the haunting cry that kept everyone away, a child's cry, echoing from the walls. One stormy evening, a group of adventurous teenagers dared each other to spend the night in Blackwood Manor. Among them was Alex, who had always dismissed the stories as mere superstitions. Armed with flashlights and a healthy dose of bravado, they made their way to the mansion, the wind howling around them as they pushed open the creaking front door. Inside, the air was cold and stale, the shadows deep and impenetrable. Cobwebs hung from the high ceiling, and the wooden floors groaned underfoot. They set up camp in what appeared to have once been the grand ballroom, its faded elegance still hinting at the opulence of days long past. As midnight approached, the atmosphere grew tense. The wind battered the windows, and the house seemed to groan and sigh with the storm. Then, just as the clock struck 12, they heard it, a faint, high-pitched cry that sent chills down their spines. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Determined to uncover the source, Alex led the group through the dark hallways, their flashlights casting airy shadows on the walls. They followed the cry up a narrow staircase to the attic, a place even more forgotten than the rest of the mansion. The door to the attic creaked open, revealing a space filled with dust and forgotten memories. In the corner of the attic, they found an old trunk. As Alex approached, the crying grew louder, more desperate. With trembling hands, he opened the trunk, revealing a collection of old toys and a small, weathered diary. He picked up the diary and began to read aloud. The diary belonged to a girl named Eleanor, who had lived in the manor over a century ago. Her entries spoke of loneliness and sorrow, of being abandoned and forgotten by her family. The final entry was particularly chilling. It described how, one stormy night, she had hidden in the attic, waiting for her parents to return. But they never did, and Eleanor had perished alone, her cries unheard. As Alex finished reading, the temperature in the room plummeted. The flashlight flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. The cry rose again, louder and more anguished than before. And then, out of the shadows, a ghostly figure emerged, a young girl with hollow eyes and a pale, tear-streaked face. "Why did you leave me?" she whispered, her voice a haunting echo. The teenagers, frozen in terror, could only stare. The ghostly figure reached out a hand, and Alex felt a cold touch on his arm. "We didn't mean to disturb you," he stammered. "We're so sorry." For a moment, the ghost's eyes softened, and she seemed almost human. Then, with a final, heart-wrenching cry, she faded into the shadows, leaving the attic cold and silent once more. Shaken, the teenagers fled the mansion, vowing never to return. As they reached the safety of the town, the first light of dawn breaking the darkness, they heard the cry one last time, carried on the wind, a reminder that some spirits are never truly at rest.